Hello class, I'm looking at our textbook here and I want to take a look at page 429 where they have a flow chart. Let's see. I don't know if I can find it. Went to our little part here. So as we begin coding, it's important for us to think about what we're going to be doing here. So for every frame, we're going to, and this is for our apple, we're going to move in whatever is the current direction, left or right. Did the direction change? If so, we're going to change our direction of our movement and then move up to our no path. And our no path is going to check then to see if it's time to drop an apple. And if it is, it's going to drop an apple. And if not, we're going to wait for the next frame. So basically, we're going to move at a certain speed for every frame. We're going to change directions if we hit the edge of the play area, and we're going to change directions based on random chance also. We're going to drop an apple every second. So let's get our code going in Unity, and we're going to be working with our apple tree class. So for our apple tree, we'd like to create some class fields. First, our apple prefab. It's going to be a game object called apple prefab. We're going to set up the speed in meters per second. This is going to be a float speed, and we're going to set it equal to 1. We're going to set up the distance where the apple tree turns around. Again, this is going to be a float. Left and right edge equals 10. Okay, what else do we need? We need a chance. set up this float variable chance to change directions. Rate at which our apples will be instantiated. I'm going to drop an apple every second. Okay, so that sets up our variables that we need. So we've created a prefab object, a speed variable, and now remember, since all of these are public variables, they're going to be available to us in the inspector. So if we wanted to adjust some of them during runtime, we can change those settings. Now in our start, we're going to go ahead and put in a comment that says we want to begin dropping apples every second. And then in our update, basic movement and changing, direction. So these are just comment placeholders to remind us what we need to do when we're ready to begin our code, which we're going to be doing pretty soon. So let's do a save all. And then move ahead. To see this code actually do anything, right now we would have to put some action here in our start or update, right? But we also would have to attach it to our Apple Tree game object. So let's take a look at doing that. We'll come back and add some code there to create some action. But right now we have our Apple Tree game object and we have our Apple Tree script. Let's see, if we click on our Apple Tree game object, we see that we don't really have a lot of items, so we'll grab our Apple Tree script and drop it right on there, and now we see our script there controlling our game object or associated with it. So that gives us some good action here as soon as we put some code in. Now let's make sure we got that added to our prefab. Better add it there. Okay, so we've got it here in both places. I'm going to revert to prefab. Let's get rid of one of these because now I've got two. And how's our prefab? Okay. So we have our code associated with our Apple Tree prefab. When we click our Apple Tree in our hierarchy now, we should see our public variables. There they are. Speed, rotation, all those kinds of things. And of course we know, what do we want to be our Apple prefab? Well, let's go to our Apple Tree prefab and let's set that up. We would like it to be our apple. There's my apple. That's good. Now I have those associated properly. Now I'm going to try moving the Apple Tree around the scene a little bit to adjust the X and Y coordinates in our inspector to find a good height for the Apple Tree and a good limit for the left and right movement. And then I can set those left and right edge variables appropriately. Let's try it. I feel like I need to move him down to the ground a little bit, but not too far. pretty close to 0 for me there. And my basket then, where's my basket here? Now, as far as to the left and right of the scene, let's see, if I go over, I can really go to about 16.65, and if I go the opposite direction, get about 19 or so. So I'm going to stop right there, put me at 16, 17. Now I'll go with 17 on each side. That looks like a good amount. So instead of 10, really 17 here for our machine. So that looks good. Okay, I'm going to try like that and see what happens. I'm not quite following the advice for back, so we'll see. I have to come back and fix it. So before we want to get too far, let's take a look at the scripting reference. So in case you have any questions about code, you can take a look at that. Look at your help menu. Not what I was expecting. Let's try Unity manual. Well, I've got something wrong. I'll have to check into that. So see if yours is working. When you click help, you should be able to see the manuals and the references for Unity. You could also then go to Unity's website and you can click on Learn and find all the documentation. And we would be able to get to the user manual and all of the different reference manuals this way. So don't feel like you have to have it working on your machine. It's really nice that they're always available to you online. So you can find whatever help you want. Well, we've got some apples. We're thinking about some apples, but let's see if we can actually make some apples do some things. So let's go back to our apple tree script here. Goes out of our hello world. And am I in our apple tree? I am. So in our apple tree, we're going to add something to our update method here. And what we want to do is create some basic movement. And we're going to create a variable type called a vector3. And what a vector3 is basically a three dot position, X, Y, Z coordinates. You have all three. So you're keeping track of 3 numbers as a position. And we're going to set this equal to the transform position of our object. Then we're going to set up a new variable. Oops, we're going to update the x position of our vector 3 position variable, and we're going to set it to the speed of our object times time dot delta time. And this lets us, so this is a really small time, so delta time is like 0.04 float. So for each frame, it takes about 4/100ths of a second to display. So we'll continue on here and take a look at that as we get it working. Now we're going to move the position of our object to the newly calculated position. So we're basically saying, as this time elapses, move this position of the x coordinate of this object so that it's moving across or down or whatever, depending on where we're looking. So we take our current position, we save it, then we update it, and then we revise the current position. And we have to do that because our transform position is actually a property. So it looks like a field, but it's really not, because it has those x, y, and z coordinates. So our position.x can be read, but it can't be updated, so we have to create a variable that can update that. So we can update the entire property. I want to try it. Let's run here. So my apple tree is moving, but it's moving very slowly. So we can try some different values for speed. Let's see. I'm going to change it. Here's our apple tree. So our speed right now is set to 1. Let's try 10 and run. There. That's much faster. So you can try some different values there and see what works for you. Okay, so it's moving at a decent rate, runs off the screen pretty quick. So let's make it change direction when it hits the left and right edge. So let's go back to our script. And we're going to put in an if statement. So if the position x coordinate is less than subtracting 1 from our edge, so we'll take a look at that here in just a second. So if we're getting to the edge, we're going to adjust our speed, else if position x coordinate is greater than our edge, so if we do this first calculation, we're going to be moving right, and if we do the opposite, we're going to be moving left. values are set a little low, huh? Definitely a little higher. Okay, it looks cool though, at least it's bouncing back and forth. Now we want to change some random direction periodically too. So I'm going to add that in. So I'm going to get a random value here and see if it's greater than what we set up is our probability factor basically of when we wanted to change directions. And if I do, I'm going to actually change direction there. I'm going to sage my left and right edge to about 30 here. What do you think? Okay, let's try it. Got a lot of random changing going on. A little bit. Just move around. Okay. Stop that. Okay, so now we have some movement of our apple tree, and can play with some of those values and experiment with things and see how we're working. Now, because we put all our code in the update method, we're kind of, if you notice, created a few extra chances that we might want. So it could be on a slow computer that we might not get near as many changes. So if we wanted to, or to fix this, what we really need to do is to move this code out of update, which is run as quickly as a computer can render frames, and move it into fixed update. And a fixed update is exactly 50 times per second, regardless of the computer on which it's running. So let's try that. I'm going to create another update. I guess we're going to leave this code in here. Create a new one for our fixed update. I'm going to see how this works. And in our fixed update, we're going to move this changing randomly stuff. Okay, so let's see if that makes things a little bit easier to watch. Doesn't have quite as many convulsions. Let's try it. Not a lot of change. We need to be aware of that fixed update method. Okay, so let's drop some apples. I'd like to look at the apple tree script. And in our apple tree script, in our start method, we're going to use the invoke repeating kind of like a timer in Unity, and we're going to say that we want to drop an apple. So when we create a invoke repeating, we're saying we want to run this method every 2 floats basically, but we're saying we want to set this up as a timer and we're going to run it every time these number of seconds elapse. So for every second, since that's what we set up as our seconds between apple drops, we're going to run a drop apple method. Let's go ahead and create that. In our drop apple method, we're going to create a game object to hold our apple. Oops. And we're going to instantiate, every time we run this, we're going to instantiate our apple prefab. As a game object. We're going to save our position. Now the invoke repeating is going to start. The 2F tells invoke repeating to wait 2 seconds before the first time, and then it's going to do it every second after that because of our timer. Alright, clarify there. And I don't want to do that. I need to save on Visual Studio and run in Unity. Oh, there's an apple. And they're kind of coming out of the bottom of the tree there. Alrighty. We're going to have to work on our beautiful graphics, but we have some apples coming out of our apple tree as it's moving around across the screen. So let's stop there for now, take a break, and we'll pick back up in a little bit.